Hi, I'm Tom Stone, and welcome to Talking About Dollars and Sensibility. This being my first show, I thought I'd take the first little bit and just introduce both myself and the idea behind this show. So again, my name is Tom Stone, and a couple things I'm really proud of. I'm a graduate of Wasatch High School, and that's where I wait for the applause. I think it's that cool. I also graduated from the University of Utah, been married for 20 years, and I have 4 kids. I've been a mortgage banker for a little over 19 years here in the Heber Valley. That's me. Now, the idea behind this show came about my 3rd year into doing business. So again, I'm a mortgage banker, so people would come to me and say, hey, I need to buy a house. And my mentality then was whoever sat behind or in front of my desk, I would make sure they got a loan, no matter what. If that's what they wanted, I gave it to them. Come heck or high water kind of a thing. Part of the 3rd year came along and people were refinancing a lot. So it was the time, if you remember way back when, and about 20 years ago, rates went from about 9% down to 6 and 7/8. Everyone thought that was the coolest thing that ever happened. And so I did a lot of those refinances. People were consolidating debts, paying off their boats or their credit cards or whatever it might have been and putting on their house and doing this. And when you do that as a mortgage banker, you sit down and analyze, your monthly payment savings will be this. You can save over here, and you can apply it to your mortgage and pay it off early. And it always makes a lot of sense. Most of the time, we don't do it, but it makes a lot of sense. As I was describing to people the process of you pay this off, you pay that off, they liked what we were talking about, and it made sense. They started asking me, would you pay my bills for me? I just don't seem to be able to get, on top of that. And I thought, well, I don't do that. I do mortgages. But let me give you a few hints. And I got asked that a few times. Would you just set up, some sort of payment plan for me just so I can get in control of this thing? So I would just give them an idea, some outlines, and go from there. Again, that was almost 15, 16 years ago. And so through the process of doing my business, I started realizing it wasn't just about taking an application. It was about helping people see what's best for them. Not doing what's best for them, meaning me, but helping them see. Helping them see what would be best for them both now and in the future. Now, with that, I've been looking, every time I look on the internet, I look and I see something about money, I read it. That's kind of my interest. I love the numbers and the percentages and the investments, because one thing you learn about math is that you go to school and learn that 1 + 1 = 2, but it's not necessarily true when it comes to amortizations and investments and interest. 1 + 1 doesn't always equal 2, because it depends on your term. It depends on your situation. It depends on where it's coming from. There's so many different variables. All right, let me get more on the down low now as far as on a personal situation. One of the things I found, this was on MSN Money. The question was asked by somebody who'd interviewed a bunch of people who were rich, basically people who had been very successful financially. And the question was asked, have you found any commonalities among the people you've interviewed? The answer was this: their personality styles vary. Some are introverts, some are extroverts, but their belief systems around money are the same. That was the one thread that really helped me throughout the process. I thought me was the interviewer. They all have a really positive relationship with money. They think about money in terms of freedom as opposed to the negative relationship a lot of people have with money. I read that and I thought that spoke volumes of how at least the people I've talked with and myself view money. When we think of money, do we think of it as, oh boy, I'm just trudging along in my job, living paycheck to paycheck, or I'm at the mercy of what the numbers tell me? And these people say, no, freedom is a place for me to go to be able to explore ideas and options and make things happen for me. Now, you have to be careful with that. This is a balance. You have to be careful about that, because you can also take that and run too far with it and say, hey, I'm going to make sure this is freedom, and you get yourself in trouble. So one of the things, again, that we are going to talk about a lot on this show is balance. And there's a thing that I have created. Now, I'm not saying it's mine. It's probably been told many times. But I've created a financial and emotional balance scale. And I take people through a series of questions. So let me give you an example. You want to come buy a house, which is what I do. Generally, what happens when it's a married couple that comes in to talk to me, most times one of the spouses, generally the man, not always, but generally, comes in and says, we're buying a new house, and all I care about is my payment can't be more than. Let's say he says $1,500 a month. And then she says, well, that's true, but I want to live in this particular neighborhood, and I want a view of Timpanogos. Excuse me, I have a cold I'm getting over. And I need to have, granite countertops, and I need to make sure my kids have a place to play down in the basement for when the kids come over. I want my house to be the house that everybody plays at. So there he is on one side being financial. I don't care what we're doing, can't go over $1,500. And on the other side, there she is stating, but there are some things. There's some things that are emotional, that are important. Now, if I ask you the question, which one's more important? Who's going to win? Now, if it's left to a marriage to decipher this, it's going to cause a fight. Because he's right. And guess what? So is she. What we have to find, especially in that situation, is a balance. Now, in that balance, sometimes it's not always in the middle of the scale. Sometimes it does lean towards the financial side. Sometimes it does lean towards the emotional side. It's a case-by-case, individual decision. And let me make sure that you understand what I just said there. Whenever I talk to people, it's not my decision. It's their decision. It's your decision. And the only place I play is to help someone decide for themselves what works best. So let me just say that again. They have to decide which side is more important. Sometimes it takes a third party to just kind of talk through that balancing act situation. Which one's more important? Let him discuss it. Let him say, you got to realize our budget's this. We can't spend more than that for these reasons. And listen to him. And on the other side of that is her, where she says, but I don't want to be in a place that I'm not happy, that it doesn't work for our family. I got to have a place to put our 18 kids, whatever it might be the situation. Could be, couldn't be. Now, you might be saying right now as you're listening to me, is this guy a mortgage banker or is he a marriage counselor? And the truth is, for those of us in the mortgage banking industry as loan officers, we realize our title does include lots of times marriage counselor because of a situation like I just talked about, amongst many, many others. More times than not. In fact, I'll tell you something that's funny. Whenever I sit down with a couple, most times again, when I pull the credit report, I get their information in, I push a button, and I have to wait about 10 seconds for that credit report to show up. And each person gets their own score. And it's so funny to me because I say, let's see, okay, here's the credit report. Let's see. It says you have a score of ... Let's say his is a 720. And then I scroll down and I see hers, and yours, she's a 724. Almost every time I have this exclamation of, yes! I'm like, okay, there's a little competition between the two. And then he or she, opposite whatever happens, always says, why is that? I can't believe she would have a higher score than me. It's always quite fun to see that. Just happened last week, and it had been a client that I'd had a couple of times, and she had won previous, and then he won, and then she won. So it was back and forth, and it was a fun little thing. I try and keep it fun, by the way. I think that's important. So if you can decide what is your relationship with money and understand where on the scale, now, by the way, the scale between financial and emotional is every decision. It isn't just one and done. It's something that you say, I'm going to buy my home. Where's the line? And it may be even house by house. Let's apply it to a car. If it's time to buy a car, now, what's the reason for it? And I'm not saying one's better or another, but it might be that your car is on its last leg. You've got 100 and something thousand miles. You've had a lot of repairs. It's time to go. It's time to get a new one. Great. Someone else might say, it's 3 years. I just change it. I'm not saying someone's right or wrong because, again, it comes down to your own particular situation. But you can ask yourself some series of questions that help you with the financial and emotional side of things. And if you do things just because you want to, it may be good to sit back and realize maybe I should look at this as a more a financial numbers thing. Maybe not totally, but maybe I should put my scale over to one side versus the other. There's just things that each one you have to sit down and do. I've created 20 questions that you go through with each decision. Again, it isn't to say what you should do, it just helps you understand where you're at. Now, another thing that I want to describe, I'm kind of describing some things that I think get us where we want to go on this show. We all have a financial personality. And again, with help of some experts in the field, I've created a financial personality test. That financial personality test is 25 questions. I've created that for someone to take, and it gives them a color and a score. Let me describe that. So there's 4 colors. And it's similar to the personality test that you might take from just, the reds and the yellow kind of thing. Same kind of idea, but different. The first color is green. Now I want to make sure when you look at these colors, you're thinking of them horizontally versus vertically, because I don't think one's necessarily better than another. You'll think it is, but it isn't necessarily. A green is the one I want to start with, and I've put it in much better terms than this on my website, and as I describe to people, more politically correct, but let me just say it. Green means you're somewhat of a control freak with your money, and maybe even anal about it. You just have to have the numbers perfect, and you maybe do a budget multiple times in the day. Nothing wrong with that. It's just very, very, very concise with those numbers, and get some satisfaction out of that. The next color is blue. In blue, the number one thing is security. Security to know that it's okay, but because you're worried all the time, you're never really sure. So you ask a lot of questions, and you try and get as much feedback as you can. Risk averse. You don't really take any risks. You keep it very close as far as not going out of what you're comfortable. The next color is orange. Orange is someone who goes extreme one way or the other. So in other words, they know what they're supposed to do, keeping a budget and doing their numbers the way they need to. And then they kind of fall. So they go full steam ahead. They know what they're supposed to do. They do a budget for a month or 2 or 3 or some period of time. And then it turns, and they go, whoops, and they go make a few mistakes, at least in their book, and they say, oh, shoot, I messed up again. Get back on track. And then there's red. And red, simply put, is an impulse buyer. Somebody who just kind of goes by what they feel, and if they have money in the account or even on the credit card, they go for it. They just do it. Again, you might think, and I'm okay with this, that green is better than red. And financially speaking, that's true. Financially speaking, that's true. They're going to have a better profit and loss statement, personal financial profit and loss statement than the red guy probably. But let me take you over to the scoring system we have. We have a behavior score. So I just did personality color, and then we have to put it with behavior score. And what happens is these questions help you know, and the higher score you have, the more you are able to do them. So if you have 100 score, then you're perfect, basically. Haven't seen it yet, but seen close ones. Down to 20. 20 is the lowest score you can get. I describe to people, guess what? Your personality is your personality. If you have a red personality, the world needs you. We're so worried about everything that, geez, someone who can kind of relax and enjoy the moment is really great. Greens, we need you. Need someone to keep us in line and get going. And in between, the same. But guess what? The reds are going to be in a spot if they can't change their behavior. So I love the personality and the variations of all of us, but the behavior score, something that you can judge and work on. Because what happens is we beat ourselves up because we might be not as good as we think. And if we pick on our own personality, we can't change that. That's who we are. But we can work on our behavior. I will add that the red personalities probably need some extra help. Somebody additional, somebody who can come in and say, let me help you. And that's okay. That's okay. You have to be willing to do that. I'm a red personality, so it's good to just say, I'm a red. But I want to change. I want to be able to get back on top of this. I admit that I probably won't be able to do it myself. I need a little assistance. And so you have somebody help you with that budgeting and decisions that are big, any financial decisions that are big, maybe even small. Again, I'm careful to say that this is to help you, not tell you, what may or may not be best for you. Each person has to decide for themselves. There's kind of the overall first step to saying, okay, where are we at? Who are we dealing with? Who am I? How do I deal with money? What do I think about it? Because even though you and I think we do, it's kind of good to step back, have these analyses done, excuse me, and just have a different perspective. My opinion is it isn't a one and done thing. My experience has been, as a teenager, I thought of money and dealt with it in one way. When I was early 20s, it changed. When I was a young father, it changed. When I now have teenagers, it changed again. I'm 43 now, which surprises the heck out of me. I can't believe it. And I'm looking at it going, all right, let's see. I actually have to start looking towards the retirement side of things. I know you should when you're 20, but I'm just saying you start realizing stuff at different phases of your life. There's different things along the way you go, I have to think about that differently. So this is analyses. I think they should go along each step of life, maybe sooner for some than others. Now, let me think. Okay. So what happens is, I talked about in my line of work, not only am I a mortgage banker, but a marriage counselor. I've also at times felt like I was the pastor, of course, a budget and credit analyzer. I have to sit down and read income taxes. I have to understand how a self-employed person puts their numbers together. People will come and try and fit retirement plans with their home and their mortgage. Specifically, if it's a reverse mortgage, we're going to talk about that, by the way. I do those. And just for the record, a reverse mortgage for the right situation, right time, I think is phenomenal. May not be for everybody, but I love them. I think they're great for the right situation. Have to understand real estate valuations and analysis. In other words, appraisals and values and trends. Have to analyze divorce decrees. Have to read how those work out. Trusts, as people try and put their homes and stuff in and out of trusts, and so forth. So I'm kind of like a jack of all trades. I'm pretty good at the one area, but what I'm going to try and do in this show is the trust side and the tax side. I'm going to bring people in on the show that are a tax accountant. We'll talk specifically about that area. And then somebody else will come in and we'll talk about financial investments. Again, I could talk basically about it, but I don't have my license in it. We'll have someone come and talk about that. So the idea is we get to know who we are, how we deal with things, and then we go ahead and start going piece by piece, one topic at a time. Now, let me tell you kind of the secret to all this. What happens when we sit down with any client, getting a mortgage, helping them with their budgeting, whatever it might be, it's asking the right questions. So let me just take you through the questions, and maybe you can think through this with you. And it really helps. It probably is only going to work when you have someone there with you to help decipher what your answer might be. Oh, why don't we practice? Sandy says practice on me.
I need all the practice I can get with finances.
Okay, you ready?
Okay. Yeah.
Sandy, what is it that you really want? What do you want? Now we're talking financial, so let's talk about, but really in life, what do you want?
I would like to not worry about money and to go on a trip when I want to, and to make sure all the bills are paid and have enough comfort that if one of the kids needs some money, I can loan them some, and not be worried about paycheck to paycheck, but just real comfortable with. But just basically, it's a state of mind. I want to not think about money. I don't want to, other than having it in my wallet. That's about it.
Let me just say it back to you to make sure I understood.
Yeah.
The first thing you said was, I don't want to worry about it. That's
Right.
something that I spend a lot of time, obviously, on your mind,
Right.
going through. You would like to go on a trip.
Yeah.
Do you have any place in mind?
Oh golly, should we start out small and work our way up? I think Paris
Paris.
is I've always wanted to go to Paris.
Paris. I love it. Cool. You want to have your bills paid.
Yes.
Now you said I don't want to worry at the beginning, and then you went to I want to be comfortable. I want to help my kids. We mentioned comfort and then comfortable,
Yeah.
and then a state of mind.
Right.
Now I'm not picking on you. There's something there that's a trend that you want to be comfortable. Now let me make a point here.
Okay.
If anyone who is listening out there they're probably doing their own self-analysis, and if I were to say, what does it mean to be comfortable, everybody's going to have a little bit different analysis of what that would be for them. So let's go one step further,
Okay.
and say, so comfortable is a broad statement.
Yeah, it is.
We just threw the Paris thing in. That's awesome. I love to hear that. What else would make you comfortable? In other words, working a certain amount of days a week, um, being able to buy the anything at the grocery store you want, or
Without looking at the price tag.
without looking at the price tag.
My
What is it
sis-
that's comfortable
yeah,
for you?
that's what my sisters and I said. The total, when we know we have arrived, it would be when we could go to the store, any store, and pick out whatever we want without ever worrying about what it costs.
Hmm.
That's and I yeah, that's comfortable.
So let's just expose a couple things. Sandy and I have talked about this a little bit. We need to officially take the test, but from our conversation, Sandy, what color are you? Personality color?
Orange.
Orange. She says somewhat of a bright orange.
Yeah, right. Yes, that's a good way to put it.
And let's just remind ourselves what that is. That's somebody who stays on track and then every now and again falls off and says oops and makes a mistake and feels guilty about it.
Very.
How much, so let's go back to that question for you where it says, what is your relationship with money? What adjectives do you describe now money? How does money make you feel?
I think I'm on an adversarial relationship with money. Because to me, it's, my husband tells me I can't stand it. That's why I have to get rid of it as soon as it gets my hands. Because he's a different color than me, obviously. And he's, thank goodness he's a different color.
What color is he?
He's the very
green?
He's not really uptight about it. He's conservative. He wants to make sure his where he wants to be comfortable too. But he's the one who says we got to do a budget every day. He's looking at it, figuring out ways to do this, ways to do that, and money to him is something to save.
Mm-hmm.
So not that he wouldn't want to go on a trip too, because I know he would. He's not rigid, not wanting to go anywhere. It's just to him. It's almost I don't know how to put it. I don't want to speak for him, but I'd say that money to him is something you want to save so that when you need it, you got it.
Got it. Okay. So let's talk about this trip to Paris.
Okay.
Tell me, and some of these questions sound obvious, but until you ask him and talk through them, you're like, I wonder. Here's the question. Why do you want to go on a trip to Paris?
Because I dabbled in art for a while, and I loved it. And they always talk about a lot of artists like to go there because of the light. Have you ever been to France? I've never been.
No, I haven't.
My husband has. He was there he was in Germany in the army and went there quite a bit. But there's a laid back, I guess, attitude there with a lot of things. I mean, they have good food. They have beautiful countryside. A lot of artists are there. It just seems like a place that you could be creative, and if you can't be creative unless you're relaxed or comfortable.
Do you describe yourself as creative?
I think so.
And so that would be a place that you could feel positive.
Yes, and at home.
Tell us your art background. Why is it that you like art?
I appreciate. I'm not talented. I appreciate other people's art. But
Okay.
I guess because it gives you emotion. You can look at. Now I'm so jealous he's seen the Mona Lisa because he said you can look at her, and her eyes follow you. And Judy, my friend's been to see her too, said the same thing. But the emotion that comes from what real masters have painted, you can feel something as you see it, and you can appreciate beauty, I guess.
You bet.
Yeah. So.
I'm kind of soaking that in a little bit. You did that very well.
Oh.
And I'm looking at her, and she's using her hands and describing herself. So there's a creative side of you that's maybe waiting to come out a little bit, huh?
Yeah, waiting. Yeah, that's the word. That's the word, waiting.
So we've talked about what it is you want, and we're going fast through this. We'll go, one-on-one, we'd probably do a little slower, but we talked about what it is you want. We talked about one of the pieces, why you want it. Well, let's go to one other why. Let's jump over to the why comfort. In other words, we talked back to money, and you want to be have comfort and feel comfortable and not worry. Why? I mean, maybe an obvious question, but why is it that is so important to you?
I guess because when you owe bills, when you're concerned with money and you don't have as much as you'd like to have, I'd say you're not as happy as you'd like to be, and so you want, in order to be creative, you got to be happy. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's where I'm
Mm-hmm.
going. I think that I've got to have this piece of the puzzle taken care of. Now that doesn't mean I have to have a lot of money in the bank. What that means is I have to be able to not worry about money, be in a place where I'm secure enough. And my husband's doing that with me. He's getting me on a daily budget.
Mm-hmm.
He's laughing right now because he knows I don't do it every day. But he's trying to get me there
Mm-hmm.
because that is the point where you know where your money's going and why.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can be comfortable. Then you can be happy. I guess that's the term.
Have you set a, a financial point? In other words, when I can get my numbers looking a certain way,
Mm-hmm.
that's when I'm going to feel discomfort and no worry. Do you have an actual goal in mind that you say, that's what I want to achieve? Or is it ambiguous?
Get the bills paid off. But you're right. I need to say, okay, when this happens, we can do this because that gives me something to work for. I have not done that.
So you've described money as guilt.
Yeah.
And if this goal of yours is always ambiguous and always without, outside your reach, it's the carrot dangling in front of you.
Right.
Even when you, excuse me, I don't mean to tell you what, but what I'm hearing is, even when you've achieved something, again, in our conversations previous, you've mentioned that you've improved, you've gotten better.
Yes.
So are you rewarding yourself, even with a pat on the back, along the way? Are you
No.
allowing yourself to receive some positive enforcement? Or is it because you haven't achieved some goal?
Nebulous thing. Yeah. Right.
Uh-huh.
No, I don't think I've really ever given myself. Because I'm always to the next step. Well, you did that, but you've got this to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of like a treadmill that never quits. That's how I feel.
Sometimes our society does that to us too.
Yeah.
The never quite good enough thing. You're always supposed to be a little better.
Right.
I'm not against that. But I do believe it can cause more havoc long term than good. In fact, my opinion of guilt, and I've asked this question a lot, and I do get the word guilt a lot when it comes to money.
Yeah.
In my experience and in my opinion, guilt has a lifespan of 48 hours.
Really? Is that all?
That's my opinion. I've seen that guilt can turn at the moment. It makes you feel like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. And that's an okay feeling.
Right.
But after you dwell on it more than 2 days, so if it goes on for a week or a month or a year or 20 years, then it becomes that negative thing inside you. And if that's the motivation, you'll never get where you want to go.
Because you need a reward to get where you
Mm-hmm.
want to go, don't you?
Now, let me throw something else as we've talked.
Okay.
I just asked you, do you have a financial goal? Do you have a number you've set? And you said, no, I don't. So that's an important thing to do.
Okay.
But you're the one that brought up a very important word. No matter what that financial number is, no matter what goal you set, it has to be tied to a feeling. You have to allow yourself to enjoy whatever it is you've achieved. That's also hard for some people.
It is. I know.
Some people say, I wasn't raised that way, or my parents were never this way or that way. And we can blame a lot of situations, and sometimes we have to train ourselves. But back to that question of people who were successful, let me just repeat it. They all have a really positive relationship with money. They think about money in terms of freedom. Excuse me, the cold thing just got me. Excuse me, let me start over. They think about money in terms of freedom as opposed to the negative relationship a lot of people have with money. So think about the relationship you're having with money.
Right.
Just an interesting thing. Okay, I'm going to skip down. I'm going to skip down to the next question.
All right.
We've talked about what do you want? Why do you want it? And then I'm going to ask you, how are you going to get there? Now, this is, again, maybe more of a one-on-one. We have to talk through it. But what's your first step on how?
Pay the bills first. Get the bills. I would like to be. I mean, you have to pay your mortgage. That's the one
Mm-hmm.
thing. But we don't even have a car loan.
Mm-hmm.
Never have. Well, right at first we did, but I mean, we paid for what we wanted,
Mm-hmm.
and I should say what we needed. We haven't got to the want place yet. So I would like to get a new car
Mm-hmm.
before I go to Paris.
Mm-hmm.
Or a new truck, depending on which one of us wins the argument. But I think I don't remind me the question.
How is it that what's step one on the how? I know what I want. I know why I want it. Now how am I going to get there?
By doing my husband has convinced me by doing my budget every day. That's how.
Do you
Because
like that idea?
actually, when I do the budget every day, I do feel better.
You do feel better.
I do feel better because I think I'm square. I'm set, I'm okay. I don't. The guilt goes away, and this is the amazing thing. It goes away. Why don't I do that every day? If I love to be guilt free, why don't I do it every day? To
Mm-hmm.
be, but I'm orange. I keep falling off that wagon.
So realizing you're an orange, let's
Uh-huh.
not beat ourselves up. That's my personality.
Right.
That's who I am. So
Right.
allow yourself to come back. Instead of beat yourself up when you're down,
Right.
say, "Oh, that's my personality. I go full steam and then I kind of take a break and I go full
Yes.
steam, take a break. I realize I'm taking my break." Maybe you
I
allow
like the way you
yourself.
put that, taking a break rather than falling off the wagon. Yeah.
Maybe you allow yourself that break. You just know. So when you're going full steam ahead, you go full steam ahead to make up for the time when you're taking a break.
Right. That's exactly.
See, that's changing behavior.
Yeah.
That's changing
So I
behavior.
have to change behavior to be
Mhm.
guilt free then.
Mm-hmm. Which you say you've already said, because when I do the budget, that's your choice.
Right.
Hopefully it's not your husband's. It's your
Right.
choice.
It is.
I feel, that's another key word, better. And that's, so the whole thing you said, I want to feel comfort, I don't want to worry. Sounds to me like doing that budget every day brings along a feeling of better,
Right.
which may be related to not worrying as much.
Right. So I can't do better without changing my behavior. I can't.
That's the
feel
only way.
better.
And also, if you listen to this show or read a book or quote somebody that you know that has money on the TV or internet, and you say, that person has told me everything, I'm going to do it. Well, guess what? No matter what, it always comes back to you have to do it.
That's true.
No matter what, you have to control change your behavior. Again, it may take a third party to help. I think accountability is a huge part of this.
Right.
And well, let me go back to something before I go there. You've used the word budget. Now, when I talk to people, I try and change that word to tracking, because budget has this negative
That's what
connotation.
I have told my husband. I said, "Can we make it another word? Call it the tree, something different." Because that word it's like putting a dagger through my
Yeah.
heart. It is.
But let's just point that out. You just said doing the budget makes me feel better.
It does.
But then you just described how it puts a dagger in your
The
heart.
word.
The word
The
does.
word budget.
Okay.
Because it feels like the word budget is that chain around your neck that chains you to the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, and it's dumb because when I do it, I do feel better. So why do I have that? It's the word. I keep thinking it's the word. I know it's not, but my logical mind tells me it's not, but my heart says, "Oh yeah, you want to bet." So
You bet.
Yeah.
So that's something that you really ought to discuss. And for
Right.
yourself, you change it. You call it the tree, you call it tracking, you call it whatever you want,
okay,
is keeping track of your numbers. And you do it for yourself. Not even for, I gotta be careful when I say this, not for your husband. You should do it for yourself first,
Sure.
and then for the
I
marriage.
get it.
And then you can come together and say, I want to do this. If you're doing it because and I know this isn't your situation, just using an example hypothetically. If you're doing it because he's forcing you, it's going to blow up. There's going to be
Okay, well,
some negative feeling towards it, but you've said it made you feel better. Why is it, do you think, people, and your comment about budgeting has that dagger feeling and that chain around your neck feeling? Why? Why would you say that most people feel that way when they hear that?
I guess because with me, let me back up. Why I was raised in a family where you spent the money and then figured out where it was going to come from later.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband came from a family where you put it away in the bank, and then maybe you spent it on the bills, but maybe you got new clothes. I mean, it was really very, very conservative. And so the two of us, we're in the middle, and we're both trying to deal with what we were raised with, and yet our relationship. And he's done better. He's been very patient with me, I gotta say. But I'm trying real hard to, because I see it is a good thing. But it is, that word does have it.
So has money been any part of your marriage? In other words, as you've tried to work through your marriage, has money had negative
A
slash?
big black cloud somewhere? Yeah, it has.
That was another obvious question.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, money's huge.
It is.
So again, when I talked about in my industry, I feel like I'm a marriage counselor sometimes. Absolutely.
I'll bet you are.
Absolutely, because it needs to be talked about and needs to be understood.
We don't talk about it. It's like that.
We don't.
It's like, I think even as a society, we talk about the other taboo, which is sexual things, before we talk about money. And
Yeah.
it's so retarded,
Yep.
backwards.
Yep.
But that's the way, I don't know why.
We won't talk about it. That's what I said in my introduction. I said, few things affect people more than the topic of money. Yet we don't talk much about it. We trudge along and hope things work out, but never really know for sure.
That's exactly it.
So this gigantic cloud hanging over us every day. We wake up every day, we take our shower, we put our boots on, and we go to work. I can't. In fact, I'll tell you this in my job. More times than not, I'll ask one of the clients across the desk, "How much money do you make?" And their answer is, "I'm not sure."
I know that part.
I'm not sure.
Really?
Now, there's factors to that. Number one, sometimes there's just one spouse in a marriage again that pays the bills and the other one doesn't. And so the comment might be, I just give my paycheck to them. They do all the budget. I don't know. You'll have to look it up, and I have to look it up, and okay. But the second thing is, you might make $20 an hour, but after federal, state, FICA, health insurance, 401k, and everything else, you don't make $20 an hour.
No, you don't.
So that number, that question can be a little, depends on the situation. Let's go from how. Again, we're going fast through this process.
Sure.
There's a lot of hows, and we go line by line. But who? So the next question is, who can help you get there? So if you sit back and say, okay, I'm an orange personality. My relationship with money, I felt guilt. I'm on a budget. My husband's helping me. I like the way it feels, but I'm not quite there. Is there a who, maybe someone you don't know yet, that, again, this is kind of where that accountability comes in.
Right.
Let me go there for a second. Accountability. That also has something of a negative connotation, because we're going to make sure you do it.
Yeah.
Well, like this accountability I'm talking about is you make the appointment, it's once a week or month, whatever someone needs, and you just come in and you just show, here's what I've done and here's where I'm at. More times than not, it's somebody that says, I messed up here, messed up there, but I'm back on track. Right. That's okay. You just need a somewhere to answer, somewhere to say, here's where I'm at. Here's where I've succeeded, and here's where I have not. Here's where I've gone really hard, and here's where I took my break. And if you don't have that place,
I love that terminology. Took my break.
if you don't have a place to go, especially a person,
right.
to just to go through it and just say, here's where I'm at, then more times than not, that month will go by, and then the second month will go by, and you'll be out of the habit.
Oh, sure.
So there's almost always in these, whether it's retirement, whether it's credit repair, whether it's buying a home, whatever it is you're trying to do, if you don't have an accountability set up, and sometimes that works in marriage relationships, most of the time it doesn't, because it ends up in some sort of a...
Well, that we've talked about this, and my husband says, I don't want to be like a parent.
Yeah.
We're co-equals.
Yep.
So you need to be, you can come to the party, babe.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree with him. It's not, I don't want him to be my parent either.
Mm-hmm.
Because then I dump it on him, and it's not his fault.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think a third party would be helpful, because then I could dump it on them and not
Yep.
him.
Yep.
That's not good either.
Well, let's go there for a second. You said dump it on them.
Dump the guilt, and
Yeah.
if they want the negative connotation, I can dump on somebody who I'm not in love with and have to and have a relationship with, and try to make everything work out.
And ultimately, you want to make sure I own it. So you might dump it, and again, we all need a place to go to talk.
Yeah.
Even if you say you don't, you're holding a lot inside.
I know.
Everybody needs a place.
So I agree with you.
Everyone needs a place to talk, just to make sure they're doing okay, or they're very confused. What I found is that because people, again, sorry about the cold, because people generally don't know what they want, generally don't really know where to go, don't know maybe why they want it, because they're so busy going to work, working hard, coming home, watching TV, eating dinner, and going to bed, especially in the wintertime, that they stay in limbo. They have indecision. So instead of making a decision that might be a bad one, they just make none at all.
And let that be their decision.
Mm-hmm. So if they never make a bad decision, or one that they might regret later, or they're not sure of, then they just stay right where they're at. Now,
sounds like hell.
Yeah, that's what I found. I personally find that, when someone makes a decision and it's even a mistake, guess what happens? They learn from it.
Right.
They say, I'll never do that again. And I myself have a tab going. I call it the tuition of life. And these are decisions that I've made that actually cost me money. I wrote a check, and I made a mistake.
Yeah.
I thought it was a good investment. I thought it was a good idea. I thought it would be a good thing for whatever, and it didn't work out. I've also had those where I wrote the check and it's worked out. I have more positive than negative in that situation.
Oh, that's good.
But my
That's what separates you from the rest of us, I think.
my good decisions came because I learned from my bad ones.
There you go.
And if you have that third party accountability, you can just kind of run things past. You'll make less. Probably not zero, but less. I'm not going to say bad decisions because I think they're all good if you make them with the best intentions.
Right.
But that's just an accountability and a who to help you get there.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to go to the next question. When? When are you going to start?
I'd like to start. Well, I've already been starting, but I mean, I'd like to start, and I would like that accountability thing. I think that's a good way to go.
And so you set an actual date and a time,
Okay.
and I would recommend that it become like so your budget might be, someone might be every day, some might be every week, some every month, whatever you choose.
See, I'm comfortable twice a week. He's not. He likes
So you're going to say, every Tuesday and Friday or whatever days you choose.
That would work for me.
Every Tuesday and Friday, and 2 days a week, you should talk in 10 minutes. You should be good to go.
Right, right.
You just plug in some numbers, make sure they're working, good to go on your budget. Accountability, if you want to get a third party involved, that's where you'd say, I meet, maybe it's once a month, and it's every third Thursday at 3 o'clock.
Right.
If you don't do that, it won't happen. I promise that. If you don't set the schedule, time management, especially when it comes to personal finance, is one of the most important factors in achieving all of your goals. If you don't, everyone says, I'm going to do that. That's a great idea. I'm going to do that. I'll let you know. Okay, that will not happen.
No.
And then what happens is 6 months goes by and we say, I've been meaning to call you. It's right on my desk.
Yeah, people don't look at you if they've made it. I can't go see Tom. I can't see him. I didn't do it.
That's what I never want that to happen, by the way, because this is not me. This is you. And I also have to say this. Every person has their own process.
Yeah.
And most times we don't get it right the first time, or the second, or the third, sometimes the 10th or the 12th.
How could we expect to, really?
Exactly. So this whole idea leaves room for, and I'm not going to use failure, for breaks. We decided we like that word. So it leaves,
Learning breaks,
take a
right?
break. Yeah, take a little break. Allow yourself to realize I'm doing okay. Now, if you're in a real big hole, then it's just one little step at a time.
Right.
One little step. You take big ones, you will fall. So the win factor is pretty simple. You just say, I'm doing my budget this day and that day, and my accountability with so-and-so is going to be on this day. Now, just for the record, the one guy that I work with, and he's busy, and I hope he doesn't mind me saying his name, but Randall Probst. He's the new health director, and he's one of my favorite people in the whole world, but he's the guy that's helped me understand budgeting and the numbers. He's got a system he's put in place, and I love it. I love what he does. And so all of this budget talk is coming from him, as we've talked about this kind of things.
Sure.
So he's put himself in a place where he's an accountability person and helps them work through their process. Doesn't say you failed, you better get going again.
He's very good at not being judgmental.
Yep.
I know him, and he was our stake president. He's a good man.
He's great. So I learned a bunch from him. And then the last question, generally this question comes after about a month, by the way. And it may sound redundant, but then you say, after you've done all these questions and kind of processed through this and answered your own questions for your benefit, not mine,
Right.
where will this take you? And that is actually way at the beginning when you said to me, I put an arrow from where back up to what do you want? And you said you don't want to worry. You want to go to Paris. You want the bills paid. You want to feel comfort, be able to help the kids if I can, and have a state of mind. I think we covered all of those.
Yeah, I think we do.
So again, this is not something that we can do in 20 minutes or whatever we just took, or 30 minutes, or
Wow.
whatever
That
we
went
just.
fast, didn't
That
it?
went fast, didn't it? So, but again, each person. Now, the other thing is, when it comes to money, you can buy a book, you can go on the internet, you can print off your own budget thing. It's pretty standard stuff out there.
Companies have made a lot of money.
A lot of money doing that stuff, and that'll get you started.
Right.
But you have to realize that budget form is for the masses, and yours is individual. Even though you might still have same categories, yours is a little bit different. You turn your heat up a little higher than the next person. Heat's more important to you than they are. Somebody has a green personality where someone has an orange personality. So this has to be one-on-one. You have to understand who you are and why you make certain decisions. And this is the part that I may have some people disagree with me. You have to allow yourself rewards. I sit down, and when I heard you want to go to Paris, I was excited for you. We're going to make that a priority. Let's go to Paris. It may take 3 years. I haven't seen your budget exactly yet, and when I say that, it's not my budget, it's yours. But we'd say, where can we save in your budget? So we'd actually go through your budget, and it may be that you don't know you're paying too much in your insurance. You may need to refinance your mortgage. Maybe you just have paid your mortgage for 10 years and never thought about it. I get that a lot, by the way. If you have credit card debt, I'm not saying you do, but if you had credit card debt, what kind of rates are you paying? Should we redo those rates? Are you paying too much for your TV? So you can go through and analyze so much. When I've done that with Randall, he has saved $200 on the minimum a month and up to, I think it was $1,200.
Really?
And the person didn't change anything. They just redid what they were paying.
Oh my goodness.
Most people in their day-to-day budgets, because they just put on their boots and go to work and come home and watch TV, you don't analyze your insurances and your mortgage and your credit cards and your car loans. You just pay it. Some people do. The greens do. The greens do.
Yeah, the greens do.
The blues generally do. The oranges do, and then they forget. And then the reds don't. And I'm not saying it's good or bad, and because, again, the emotional side is just as important as the financial. But that balance, to be able to look through the budget and just be able to say, okay, I found $300, and I didn't have to change anything. And I take that $300, and what am I going to do with it? Well, he wants to save. You want to go to Paris, just assuming that was the case.
Right.
So let's split it. Maybe he's okay with 100 of it going into savings, and 200 can go to Paris. So if Paris costs $5,000,
it would probably.
let's just say $5,000. I don't know that. $5,000. Excuse me. And it's $200 a month. You can do the math. It'll take so many months to get there. And there's never a discussion in your marriage of, please, I want to go to Paris. And he says, you can't afford it. It's already been set in the budget. The budget is speaking on behalf of you two. There's no discussion. It's already been decided. And that $200 a month is the Paris budget. And you end up going to Paris. It might be 2014 or 15 or 16. But you know it. And you're planning for it. And the other cool thing that one of my clients wanted to go to England. But the trips they've gone on in the past, they've always put on a credit card and spent the whole year paying it off. And she had said the point, I don't want to go to England because I hate the feeling every time I'm there to be on vacation, but I swipe the credit card and I just know when I get home, there's this big balance waiting for me.
Yeah.
So they were in a situation, they were the ones that we saved about $1,200.
Wow.
Just because they never sat down and analyzed. They were so busy in their job that they just went crazy. Anyway, they had the trip of their life, both of them. And her comment back to me was, do you know why I enjoyed it so much? It's just because I knew every bit of what I was doing was paid for. Because it took them a while, they had to save some money.
Right.
But it went $1,200 that they didn't know they had, it went pretty quick. It was about 6 months and they were on their trip.
Wow.
And they didn't change their budget at all.
And see, that would be fun if you had the money in it. And that's how and my husband's been teaching me, that's how you do it. You save for it, then you go get it, and then it's guilt-free.
And then it's guilt-free.
So.
And if remember the when question?
Yeah.
When do you want to go to, when do you want to go to Paris? Well, you know. It's not an ambiguous goal that will never, ever happen. You've said it going, I've got myself on a plan. I know what it's expected. I know what I have to do. I know what I'm responsible for. Now, Paris might be 3 years down the road. I'm going to add one more piece to it. Because Paris is, let's say, 3 years down the road, I'm just hypothetically speaking, you're going to need to give little rewards along the way. So once a month, you might need to do that really nice dinner.
Yes.
You might get that nice sweater you're looking at.
Right.
But it's in your budget. And you talked about it. Now, again, some of my green friends out there are saying, you got to be careful. It might, and I understand each person's different.
And the orange people are saying, go for it.
Well, 3/4 of us are saying, I need a little reward along the way.
Right, right.
And so you have a big goal, and then you give yourself little goals. It might be the fact that you get to have your Snickers and your root beer or Coke or whatever you like, and that's just something that you set aside and you know it.
Just something little.
Something little. Give yourself, again, I'm going to go back to this. What is your relationship with money? And this is how you can set yourself up on a stringent budget, but give yourself a little reward.
Right.
Be positive about it. Be able to do these things. Now let me do a personal thing on the numbers. So here's how I do this. I like to take my wife on a trip every year. because I
Good
want
for you.
because I want my marriage to work out,
Yes.
especially during the teenage years.
Yes.
I've always said, and I said the worst thing that happens to marriage is kids. And I know that sounds bad, but they just are so much. There's so much time spent
stress.
that it leaves little for your marriage,
That's true.
and that's a tough time. So what I've done and figured out is that this is another one. I like to say things. People, what? But every single thing I can buy, I buy on my credit card. If I can do it on my credit card, I will. Groceries, gas, whatever it is, and I pay it off every month. Okay, so I've put myself on a budget where I don't pay interest because I pay it off in full every month. But what I get is I get points, and those points on my credit card add up. And every year, it'll be about March, so I'm going to go February, March, April, depending on what we're planning on. I'll have enough points to pay our airfare. And so one of our favorite destinations is Puerto Vallarta. Puerto Vallarta is a pretty nice place. We've got a little place we go down there that we love. I've taken her, I don't know, 8 times now or something like that.
Wow.
And let me just give some numbers. This is something. So my airfare is always free. I don't pay that. That's generally $800 a person, approximately $600 to $800.
So that's $1,600 you don't have to pay.
Done. I don't have to pay for it
That's because you used your credit card.
because my credit card, the points.
Wow.
And there is nothing behind the scenes there. There's nothing. Yeah, but you're going to get. Nope. I'm telling you. If you want to know the details, come talk to me. Those points are being utilized. If you don't use them, then you're wasting money.
Yeah. $1,600.
They're trying to enhance you to use your credit card because every time they
Right.
swipe it, they earn a little bit. So they'd rather if they get 3 points off of a credit card swipe,
Yeah.
then they give me, in points 1 back. They keep 2. Otherwise, I wouldn't swipe my credit card.
Right.
So there's more money in their pocket. So that's how it works on the back end. This place down in Puerto Vallarta is about $150 to $200 a night. We go for a week with food. I'm at Puerto Vallarta for less than $2,000
Wow.
for over a week. My budget, that's less than $200 a month. For me, that fits in my budget. And I can go to a somewhat exotic location for under $2,000.
That's amazing.
So that's one thing I do and I promote because I believe I need a reward and I need my marriage to have a reward.
Right.
And I want to take her somewhere and tell her, hey, you know what, I appreciate what you've done and I want our marriage to work. and I don't want any of the kids in disrupting us, if at all possible. Let's do that. So that's just an idea.
Yeah, you need some time for yourself.
And there's a combination of balancing financial and emotional.
Yeah.
Because what we want, most of us, not all of us, I met someone just a while ago that said they don't need anything. They just love keeping track of their money. Okay, that's unique.
Some people are like that.
Some people are like that. I have some things that I want.
Yeah.
And I set aside how to get there, and I have to be patient, and when I'm ready, I can go do it.
Yeah.
Every now and again, I go, oops. I let my impulse. I'm still trying to guess what my personality color is. Someone said, I think I'm a rainbow. They said that to me, and I was like, maybe I'm a little bit of a rainbow because I've got some green in me and a little red, so I don't know where I'm
There you
at.
go with the balance.
I got a balance thing going. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, well, what are you thinking? How you feeling at this point?
I'm feeling good.
I'm kind of thinking. Let's see. Oh, I want to tell one more story. So I have a client that came in. It's so fun because it was just a hard-working guy. Hard-working guy. Had a decent job, not a great job. Hard-working guy. And I helped him buy his first house a long time ago. 15 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And maybe more than that. Who knows now? A long time ago. And it was a nice little house here in Heber. I think they paid $125,000 or $140,000,
Oh, wow.
Something like that. And then they came in 8 years later and said, I got a bunch of kids now, and I kind of grew out of that house. And I said, all right. I said, because I need to buy a new one, and there's one out here, blah, 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 I think I might want to get, and I don't know what to do. I said, what do you owe on your house? And he said, 8. And I wrote down 80. I said, that's really good. You're down to 80,000. And it kind of went past both of us. Well, it came up again. And he says, no, I don't owe 80. I owe 8. And I was like, are you kidding me? No one pays off their house. How would you do that almost? And he said, I just put extra against it every month. But I thought, that's cool. Good for you. Well, what it did for him, as through his decision, I said, let me give you some options. I said, you have this house that now is worth $250,000, by the way. And I said, you have an option if you want. that we could pull money out of this house, take it, and you could go buy a couple, 3 houses if you wanted with that down payment money.
Oh my goodness.
So from him paying off his house, maintaining his good job, nothing fancy, but because it was paid for, he took that and bought 2 other houses. So he now had 3 houses, and he rented out the 2, and he made about $1,500 cash flow on those things. That may not fit everyone's personality to be that. It fit his. And I love that idea. If it was up to me, which it's not, and my kids are going to be old enough to buy a house, I'm going to recommend that they put themselves on a 15-year note.
Yeah.
Because if they are 25 years old and they buy their house, and they just buy a little smaller house than what they'd like,
Right.
still a decent house, and by the time they're 40, their house is paid for, and it just gives 100 options.
Yeah.
Most of us don't do that, and that's okay. I'm not saying, that we all have reasons.
We paid quite a bit extra to put on the principal so we can do that. So that's a good thing. That makes a big. It's amazing how if you put a little bit more every month on your principal, we probably put maybe a fifth
Mm-hmm.
of our payment is extra that'll go on our principal.
Now
That
the
doesn't pay
mistake. So there's always a flip side to everything. So the mistake is people have come in and done 15-year notes with me,
Yeah.
and they're so excited to pay their house off, and they come back 3 to 5 years later and they say, "We can't handle it," because what happens is life comes along.
Uh-huh.
The braces on the teeth, the tires on the car, the
Right.
new car, and they have $10,000 or $20,000 worth of credit card balances now
Right.
because they've been trying to pay off their mortgage.
I see.
So there's a time and place,
Okay.
and I believe if you set it up initially in a smaller house,
Right.
that you can be in good shape. So I'm not saying everyone should do a 15-year. I'm not saying they
Right,
should,
right.
but that's just a concept that worked for him that I thought was just really cool.
Yeah.
Now, I do need to say, in fact, this time has gone so fast that I should have said this a long time ago, but this hour that we're going to be doing at least once a week is sponsored by my company, Guild Mortgage. Now, whenever you work for a mortgage company, especially since 2009, we have 100,000 new rules we have to follow. And so for me to do this radio show, I have to say this. And I like when disclaimers are read because they read them so fast. I'm going to see how fast I can read this, just for fun. Here we go. Guild Mortgage Company, NMLS 3274, Equal Housing Lender. Tom Stone, Individual MLS 257849. The information contained in this training has been prepared and distributed for educational purposes only and do not represent the opinions of Guild Mortgage Company. This information shall be construed as a guarantee of loan approval. All loans are subject to underwriter approval. How's that?
I didn't catch anything but the name of the company.
Well, for the record, if anyone's listening, I did it. I was told I had to do that disclaimer side.
There you go.
We're sponsored. I think we're going to call it a show today.
Okay.
I think we're going to call it a show today. This is our first one. Our hope is that as we progress and go forward with this show, that people will feel comfortable calling in and emailing. Now, the email that I have is tstone, that's T as in Tom, so tstone at guild, GUILD, mortgage.net. My office is located at 175 North Main Street. So right next to the car wash is the Tate building. I'm on the 2nd floor. I hope, and my phone number, yes. And my phone number is 435-654-9979. My hope is that you'll come see us. You'll talk about anything and everything, including buying a house and anything else we can help. So appreciate it. Thank you.